And greetings. Happy Monday. Welcome to the Steve Deace Show here. It is a rarity. And that is we have an entire week that we're going to be here in studio together. That does not happen much this summer. As a result, at least one of mine, maybe you don't care, I do. One of my cherished traditions I do every year is Sports Jersey Week. I've not had a chance to do that all summer long. I've been gone so often. So I'm doing it this week. Hope you guys are okay with that.
Sure.
I don't think you care. And I'm debuting it with one of the holy grails of throwbacks, man. When I was collecting these a few years ago, there's two I just could not get my hands on that I really wanted. Lance Allworth. I can get the most beautiful uniform of all time, the powder blue of the San Diego Chargers. I could get that in a lot of different names, but I want Lance Allworth's name. And I could not find that. And the other was Earl Campbell, the Tyler Rose. And was in Canton last week at the NFL Hall of Fame. I could not get Lance Allworth, but one of the holy grails was available, the Earl Campbell, the man that taught an entire generation what breakaway jersey meant. And if Barry Sanders was ballet in cleats, Earl Campbell was just raw power. Just running over people, man. Trucking people, stuff we had just never seen before. And so I'm debuting with the brand new Earl Campbell Houston Oiler throwback. Admit it.
It's solid.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Solid.
It is. It's beautiful. What is that, velvet? Nope. It's Earl Campbell. Also want to let you know we have about 200 and some copies of the autographed edition of, oh, by the way, that's Todd Erzin and Aaron McIntyre. Should have mentioned them. You guys are here too. You heard Todd already. We've got about 200 some odd copies left of the autographed copies of Rise of the Fourth Reich, our bestseller from earlier this year. And we're giving away all of our author proceeds to these books to help with the legal defense funds of a couple of military individuals, one of them featured in our book, who bravely stood up against the COVID mandates and told the truth. And if you want to take advantage of that, there's about a little less than 300. I think it's 280 some of these are left at fourthreichbook.com. Fourth Reich Book, FOURTHREICH book. fourthreichbook.com is where you want to go and help us sell those out. And we'll raise at least $20,000 for helping them with their legal defenses, because now they're trying to not let them work in medicine. I mean, these guys didn't just stand up against the mandates. They defended other military personnel as medical officers. They defended other military personnel that didn't want to take the poison. And so now that they're out in the general population after discharging them dishonorably, now they're trying to stop them. They took away their pensions. Now they're trying to stop them from working in medicine in the private sector. So help us buy up the rest of those copies. Neither Daniel Horowitz and I are going to take a dime of that money. It is all going to these two brave individuals. fourthreichbook.com. Again, that's fourthreichbook.com. All right, coming up on today's show, Bob Vander Plaats will join us at the bottom of the hour. Next hour, we are going to do Ask Me Anything, and it just kind of snuck up on me out of nowhere. We are approaching 50,000 followers on MeWe. So we're going to let the MeWe folks ask the questions this week as a way of saying thank you for that. I assume we have some good ones from our MeWe people this week, Todd?
You always decide if they're good. We definitely don't have 50,000. There's a much less interaction than on Facebook, but I guess that can be expected.
As long as it's quality. If the questions are quality, that's all I care about. Not so much the quantity. Because we're going to fill an entire hour. You do not look confident.
We will see. It depends on you.
Okay. Yeah, he's not giving off of the most confident vibe here, Aaron, is he?
I think
This is feeling very train wrecky, very cringy.
There's several questions there that I purposely put in there because it's like, we'll see what Steve's mood is today, because this could go any number of directions.
All right, I guess we'll find out together next hour, because I've not looked at any of these questions. All right, so before we get to all of that, though, let us begin, as we always do, with Aaron's rundown of what happened while we were away.
What happened while we were away, brought to you by Cha-freaking-ching. Donald Trump has turned his Georgia mugshot into a record-breaking fundraising haul. The former president has raised $7.1 million since he was booked in the Atlanta jail Thursday evening. That's according to Politico. On Friday alone, Trump raised $4.18 million, making it the single highest 24-hour period of his campaign to date. The campaign's fundraising has been powered by merchandise it's been selling through his online store. After Trump was taken into custody, the campaign began selling shirts, posters, bumper stickers, and beverage coolers bearing Trump's scowling mugshot. The items bear the tagline, "Never Surrender," and range in price from $12 to $34. Donald Trump, your thoughts? I'm pleased to report, for those that care, that I just won the Senior Club Championship, must be over 50 years old, at Bedminster Trump National Golf Club, shooting a round of 67. Now, some people will think that sounds low, but there's no hanky-lanky. Many people watch, plus I'm surrounded by Secret Service agents. Not much you can do, even if you wanted to, and I don't. For some reason, I'm just a good golfer-athlete. I have won many club championships, and it is always a great honor, end quote. Meanwhile, Ron DeSantis cut short a campaign swing through Iowa to return to Florida, which is bracing for what's expected to be Hurricane Idalia. He went back to Tallahassee to oversee the emergency response to the developing tropical storm.
Look, I think when you have situations like this, you've got to put the interests of the people first. I mean, there's time and a place to have political season, but then there's a time and a place to say that this is something that's life-threatening. It costs them their livelihood. And we have a responsibility as Americans to come together and do what we can to mitigate any damage and to protect people.
DeSantis also visited Jacksonville, Florida, the scene of what authorities say were racially charged murders of black people at a Dollar General store in the city. Authorities said the shooter, who's described as a white man in his 20s, shot and killed himself after the attack and had manifestos outlining his quote-unquote disgusting ideology of hate. DeSantis addressed that tragedy.
Shooting based on the manifesto that they've discovered from the scumbag that did this was racially motivated. He was targeting people based on their race. That is totally unacceptable. This guy killed himself rather than face the music and accept responsibility for his actions, and so he took the coward's way out. But we condemn what happened in the strongest possible terms.
Moving on, and once more, Vivek Ramaswamy feels very strongly about every side of every issue, despite praising former President Mike Pence in his book for how he handled the aftermath of the 2020 election and trashing Trump. Ramaswamy told Chuck Todd on Meet the Press yesterday he thinks Pence could have and should have done more.
I would have done it very differently. I think that there was a historic opportunity that he missed to reunite this country in that window. What I would have said is this is a moment for a true national consensus where there's two elements of what's required for a functioning democracy in America. One is secure elections, and the second is a peaceful transfer of power. When those things come into conflict, that's an opportunity for heroism. Here's what I would have said. We need single-day voting on Election Day. We need paper ballots, and we need government-issued ID matching the voter file. And if we achieve that, then we have achieved victory, and we should not have any further complaint about election integrity.
So what would you have done
it through the Senate.
So what would you have done with Mike Pence? You would have not certified the election?
So in my capacity as president of the Senate, I would have led through that level of reform, then on that condition certified the election results, served it up to the president, President Trump, then to sign that into law.
And the vice president doesn't have the power to introduce legislation into the Senate, just FYI. U.S. climate envoy John Kerry says you're in a cult if you don't believe in global warming.
Without facts or economics on their side, they flatly deny what is happening to our planet and what we must do to save it. They incite a movement against what they falsely label climate change fanaticism, as they conveniently forget that the dictionary definition of a cult is the dismissal of facts in devotion to a lie.
And finally, in completely unrelated news, a heartwarming story developed over the weekend on a Nevada highway, where a cadre of global warming enthusiasts created a blockade, backing up traffic as far as the eye could see. You won't believe what happened next. Watch and listen.
Get out now! Get out! On the ground! All of you on the ground now! Get on the ground!
We're not violent!
Get on the ground!
We're not
Don't
violent!
move!
And that's what happened while we were away.
I don't think I've ever done this before. I'm sure I've never asked this before now that I think about it.
You want to watch it again?
Can you just play that for me again?
1 second.
Can we just watch that again?
Give me a...
And I mean, I don't know if you
pleasure.
can like really crank it up on the Get on the Ground.
It's my pleasure.
I mean, I definitely want to hear some more of that Get on the
I
Ground.
like the wailing. We're non-violent. That's my favorite.
Yeah, I want to definitely. If we could just really amp up the Get on the Ground part.
Can he be Secretary of Defense?
President. There we go. Okay.
Better move.
Taking all of you out. I approve of that message. Just really as an evergreen.
Get out! On the ground! All of you on the ground now! Get on the ground! Get on the ground!
My toddler does that move, by the way.
Don't move!
And that's what happened while we were away.
Can we watch it one more time?
Yeah.
Let's watch it one more time. I mean, good things come in threes. Thank you. Just want to hear the wailing and lamentation. I love the clinical. We're going to take all of you out. Better move.
Get out now! Get out! On the ground!
Yes.
All of you on the ground now!
Yes.
Get on the ground!
Yes.
Get on the ground!
Yes.
Don't move!
And that's...
Yes. I wanted to remember what America once looked like.
We needed that.
It was just that's current footage, correct? That's not from like 25 years ago or...
Pretty sure. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, because I was going to say, that's pretty good video from 2006. But I wanted to remember one more time what America once was.
Unless you think there's any double standard here, because we've had police arresting Christians on a sidewalk recently, there's the distinction. They were on the sidewalk. If you had a bunch of Christians blocking traffic, I'd be fine with this against them too. Get out of the road, you fools.
Aaron's Montage brought to you by our friends over at Taiga Coolers. It is peak tailgate season. Summer is still hanging on. Football season is now happening around the country. High school football started up over the last couple of weeks. So this is the perfect time to get going with our friends over at Taiga Coolers. Now, first and foremost, the best thing you need to know is that these coolers really work. I mean, they really keep your food and drinks really cool. But they do more than that. I mean, you can customize them. I've got a customized Taiga cooler at my house with a favorite team, with a movie I'm very proud to have produced that are really cool. It's a veteran-owned company made right here in the USA, employing actual Americans, unlike almost every other cooler company that makes their products in China. All right. And the price is less than those of other premium coolers that you're going to see in stores or advertised elsewhere. The customization, I mean, for your kids' high school football season, perfect. A corporate gift, a family gift. They're really nice. If you want to take advantage of My Name's Steve, get a 10% discount. And they come with a lifetime warranty as well at taigacoolers.com. TAIGA. TaigaCoolers.com, 10% discount with the code Steve, TaigaCoolers.com. We had some breaking news right before we went on the air. The federal judge in Washington, D.C. has confirmed now that Trump will go on trial as a January 6th insurrectionist on, is it March 4th, I believe? Yes, March 4th. That is Super Tuesday right now on the GOP primary calendar. Okay? I mean, I just can't even say this stuff with a straight face, man. I mean, stop. And how many interviews have we done the last few years about January 6th detainees waiting years to get a trial, to get a fair and speedy trial, to face their accusers, right? Some of them still waiting. Trump will go on trial as a January 6th insurrectionist before the D.C. Gulag on March 4th. That is confirmed. I can't even talk about it with a straight face. What's going on here is so obvious. So we're going to get into more detail on this in the overtime later today at blazetv.com/Deace. Just $10 a month if you want to be a Blaze TV subscriber. That's all it'll cost you, and you'll be able to watch today's overtime as well as all the other exclusive content that airs each and every day right here on Blaze TV. blazetv.com/Deace. All right. I want to get to Aaron's montage, which I think is going to kind of lead into what we'll talk about with the trial date set today in the overtime. So those two things will kind of go together. I hate sounding like a broken record, man. I mean, we come up with like a show theme every year. I mean, we've done different iterations of this show. We've changed segments up. You know, I've tried to kind of emulate two of the most successful bands of all time, the Beatles, who reinvented themselves like a half a dozen times in like 7 years. U2, who's reinvented itself almost every decade for longevity, to keep it real, keep it fresh. I've tried to emulate those two acts. You know, we've done an entire, renovation of the studio. Okay. I mean, we went from, this is how serious we take reinventing ourselves and not repeating ourselves on this show. We went from a summer of wasps in the HVAC to not having an HVAC. All right. I mean, we will not, I mean, there is no device we will not break, no stove we will not turn over to avoid becoming stale. All right. Are you sensing a butt coming on?
Maybe the biggest one ever.
Maybe the biggest one ever. Yeah, that's very true. But it's just hard to not go back and reset this constantly, because as an industry, as a movement, as a people, we are resetting this thing constantly. So I just want to make sure we all understand. If you're keeping score in bed, and I think actually last week was the first time I'd ever been to a Major League Baseball game that I didn't keep score. Used to love to go to the old Tiger games and keep score. And by the way, dude, have you been to a game yet since they moved the pitch clock, or they did the pitch clock? Totally different experience.
Yeah. And
it's much better. I mean, it moves. The game moves. You're there 2.5 hours. I mean, the game, and you're still getting the full experience of, being outdoors and the casual, relaxing atmosphere that only baseball provides in the summer, those lazy, hazy days of summer. But at the same time, there's more action happening, even with scoring going down, because the game is moving. And, but if you're keeping score in bed, like I didn't last week at the Indians-Tigers game, I just want to make sure we all understand here what's happening. We're selling merch, and that's our solution against mercenaries who are running a color revolution out in public. We're tweeting civil war from our compounds, from our suburban homes, against people that will have already won one by the time we never figured out that we're in the midst of a cold one as we speak. We're not doing anything legislatively or locally to stop people that are willing to do anything unlawfully. In fact, I mean, Trump is out there demanding that Republicans impeach Biden. I mean, I'm for impeaching Biden just on sheer principle. But understand, that won't do anything to stop the lawfare. There's only one thing congressional Republicans can meaningfully do, and it is the one thing that no one's asking for, including Trump. You have to defund the Department of Justice, even to the point of a government shutdown. And it just so happens here, we've got about, 37 days or something, I think, until the next CR comes up, the continuing resolutions to fund the government, right? It just so happens that it's perfect timing to have this fight. You don't have to contrive it, because we're up against a budget battle. Anyway, so the timing's perfect. This is the leverage. We're not funding any more of this until you guys make it go away. I've heard Daniel Horowitz and I talk about this. I've literally heard no one else in America with a platform talk about it. I've heard no elected Republicans talking about it, leadership Republicans talking about it. I have not heard the former president talk about it. Nobody is. Instead of attacking DeSantis from the left on COVID and using MSNBC articles to say that because they didn't push enough of your poison poke, more people in Florida died, which is a lie. I'm so desperate for substance. Let me go ahead and advise the Trump campaign on how to substantively attack the candidate that I endorsed. Let me help you with this. I'm going to help you. I'm straight up, not tongue in cheek. I'm going to help you. You need to hit him on, why isn't your attorney generals and other red state attorney generals and other red state DAs waging lawfare against the Bidens and Democrats, like what is happening to Trump for mutually assured destruction. I mean, if you're going to attack DeSantis, do it on something that is a legit attack. Not, why didn't you poison more Floridians with my beautiful genetic serum? And here's an MSNBC article that I'm tweeting out on Truth Social to back up my claim. Now, there's a legit criticism you could actually lobby, sir. I mean, every state that Hunter Biden took a leak in one time, if that state's got a red attorney general, they ought to be pursuing all kinds of lawfare against the Bidens. I told you I watched JFK for the first time in like 20 years a couple weeks ago with my kid, my son. Remember, that case was a local DA did that, Jim Garrison, a local DA in New Orleans. Because a guy that there was evidence was Lee Harvey Oswald's handler with the CIA, Clay Shaw, lived in his district. That gave him jurisdiction. That gave him the first time the American public saw the Zapruder film. So understand, this is, I think, the summer of 1968, summer of 1969, one of those 2 years. So we're 5 or 6 years after the JFK assassination. And the first time that the public saw the Zapruder film in real time was Jim Garrison's trial. He successfully subpoenaed Life magazine, which had shown like stills of it, but it's not the same as when you see the whole video happen in real time, action-packed. And you actually see the whiz of a bullet moved that JFK's head back into the left, as opposed to the magic bullet that apparently circumvented 7 different surfaces, including human bone, all right, to deliver the single kill shot that the Warren Commission claimed. And the public had never seen the video. It was 5 or 6 years after JFK's assassination, whichever summer that was. I can't remember if it was 68 or 69 when Garrison held that trial against Clay Shaw. That was the first time the American public had seen the video of the Zapruder film, not just still shots. So, I mean, where are the red state AGs? Where are the red state DAs? Red city DAs? I mean, I don't know, man. Hunter Biden has ever taken a leak in your city, you should be going after him. No one's suggesting that, though, right? I mean, if we're going to attack Ron DeSantis, Mr. President, at least pick something that is a worthwhile attack. Not hitting him from the left on, why didn't you poison more people with my poisonous genetic serum?
You're on to way more than even just the election. Where are they on COVID? Where are they on tranny madness? Where are those
Well, we got a question last week
anywhere?
on UFOs and none on tranny madness. We got nothing on that. Nothing. And I mean, Fox was completely COVIDiots the entire time. They pushed the genetic poisonous serum upon their employees, so they were never going to ask any questions about that. We're just not serious. I mean, I am sorry I keep having to say this, but we keep demonstrating it. We're told we can't have a primary process because of the lawfare. Okay. We're told we can't debate issues because of the lawfare. Okay. We're told this is the most important thing of all time, this lawfare. Okay. Does anybody know what the plan is to do anything about it, to stop it? The plan is just to sit here, to park here and do what the other side wants us to do and just talk about Donald Trump the entire time and not do anything substantively to stop them from persecuting Donald Trump, who is also actually not demanding a single thing substantive that would stop them from persecuting Donald Trump. This is the weirdest damn thing. I mean, it's just the weirdest thing. And it just goes to show we're not serious. We're just serious about clicks. We are not serious on substance or on anything. Really, we're just not. And I hate saying that. But it just keeps being, every day I have to say it because every day we prove it. Every day that this stuff comes up, it gets reset again. While, polls, Super Tuesday, if the polls are right, are about the time that Trump should be wrapping this thing up, right? That's when they are going to put him in prison for January 6th.
You know who I think may agree with you, Steve? And I want to see if you agree. But he's coming from the other side. He's a Trump supporter, but you respect him, I know, and Charlie Kirk. I've been in Notre Dame all weekend, so you may have even seen this tweet, but he tweeted yesterday, I think, Trump 2.0. And he says 47, quote, will not be 45. He itemizes like a dozen strong things that we would agree with would be a good thing to do. And then he closes with, this will be a retribution presidency. I get the feeling from this, like, he's saying what you're saying, but as a Trump supporter, like, guys, we need more than T-shirts. And I think he's trying to do something about that here.
I know Charlie. Yeah. I like Charlie a lot, okay? I've spoken at events with Charlie. He's invited me to speak at his events. I think Charlie is a serious thinker who truly understands not just the political stakes we're playing for, but the theological ones. Like, I don't know I've ever had a conversation with anybody else in this movement that, I mean, if you go back, I would say historically and philosophically, the conversation that Glenn Beck and I just had on his podcast on Friday when it came out might be the overall smartest conversation I've ever had with somebody in the history of my career. But in terms of just strictly speaking, the theological underpinnings of what we talk about every day, I've never talked to anybody in this business that better understands that than Charlie does. That talks to me on my level theologically. He's the only one I've ever met, frankly. And I have no doubt whatsoever that that's his platform for Trump 47. Has anybody seen anything close to that articulated from Trump himself? I have no doubt at all that that's what Charlie wants to see a second Trump presidency do.
Is he blinking SOS with his eyelids here
I don't
right
now? We start psychoanalyzing people. I mean, I'm just saying, I'm just going to speak for me. I am so desperate for substance, so desperate for it, that I just a few minutes ago actually gave the Trump people a legitimate attack against the candidate that I endorsed. I'm just that desperate. I want somebody show we're serious on any level, that we're serious about this. I mean, when I say somebody, that's why I endorsed DeSantis. He's already shown in Florida. He did all that stuff. Now, this is one thing he's not done. So if I was the Trump campaign, I'd be attacking him there. Instead, we're going to send out articles from MSNBC, from Truth Social, and say that DeSantis wasn't willing to kill enough people with the poisonous genetic serum I paid for that I'm proud of. I don't. Most of what I see every day on social media is the jab is bad, so we must elect the guy who gave them the jab. Lockdowns were terrible, so we must elect the guy who gave them the lockdowns. Election fraud is bad, so we must re-elect the guy that gave them the $400 million to steal it from us the last time. That's most of what goes on. I mean, there's a guy I saw on Twitter that has, we've got we're on a large network. We have a fairly well listened to show. And this guy has 3 times the Twitter followers I do. I don't know his name. He goes by a moniker. And he tweets out that some graphic from Fox that shows Donald Trump is getting 20% of the black vote. I'm going to tell you right now, if Donald Trump gets 20% of the black vote into the 2024 elections, I will both write and perform on this program a gay love song to top Trump advisor, or maybe a better way of putting it is bottoms Trump advisor, Lindsey Graham. Me to him, straight up.
Save that energy. That's one of the questions I was talking about in terms of Ask Me Anything. Comes up.
I mean, they are literally assassinating Trump in public, and we're running the same grift from the 90s. Hey, tell the white boomers, the patriotic white boomers who are tired of being called racist, that the black folks are going to leave the Democratic plantation. I mean, how many times have we heard that talking point, almost only our entire lives? We're selling each other hopium and merch. It's the color revolution. It's the October revolution out in the streets. We're just not serious. All right, back here on the Steve Deace Show, brought to you by our friends over at Patriot Mobile. They are America's only American mobile phone company. They are trailblazers. leaders in building the parallel economy that we need so that we are not constantly funding people that not just hate us, but then act upon it, that are literally trying to undo our way of life. And they have an outstanding customer service team. If at any time, for example, you need to switch to any of the other major networks out there, they can help you do that at Patriot Mobile for free. They've got all kinds of other savings, especially if you're a veteran or first responder. Let them know when you go to make the switch. They've got extra ways to say thank you. For the rest of us, you can get a free activation with the offer code Steve when you go to patriotmobile.com/Steve. I know what you're saying, know what you're thinking. Man, I'd love to do it, but it's going to be a big hassle. And I just can't afford to do it right now. We did it, and we were stunned at how well it went. We made that switch. PatriotMobile.com/Steve is where you want to go. 100% U.S.-based customer service team. PatriotMobile.com/Steve, or call them at 878-PATRIOT. That's 878-PATRIOT. Let's welcome. Let's try that again. Let's welcome our good friend Bob Vander Plaats. Good to see you, brother. How are you?
Good to see you. Do I always have that effect on you, get a little tongue-tied just knowing that I'm here?
Indeed. I mean, I look over there every Monday. I'm like, crap, he's back again.
He's back again.
Yeah, I'm going to have to carry, carrying Bill Walton up and down the court. That means I've got to carry you for the next 15 minutes or so.
So if you're comparing me to Bill Walton, I'll take that.
You're more sober.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Okay. You've done less weed. Which of these, I want to start with a multiple choice test.
Okay.
All right. Which of these things that was trending in conservative media over the weekend, which of them is true? All right. Which of these things is true? Okay. A, Vivek Ramaswamy claiming that Mike Pence could have used his position as president of the Senate to usher in a series of reforms that then would have gotten the approval of Trump to certify the election. So January 6th could never have happened. That's what he said on Meet the Press yesterday. Okay, that's number one. Number two, that because he's been arrested, Trump is going to win the black vote. Okay, and won't need the white folks in the suburbs because he's going to win the black vote. Okay, that's number two. Okay, and number three, I have washboard abs. Which of those three things that were asserted with great confidence over the weekend are true?
Well, first of all, I was in Alaska all of last week and just got back, but I would say none of them are true. Maybe your washboard abs. I haven't looked recently, but maybe that's more true than
buried
the other
under
two.
about 3 inches of flubber. Yes, but maybe they're in there somewhere. No, none of them are true. None of them are true. None of them are true. I mean, the vice president does not have the power. So
absolutely not
to propose and push legislation as and he was going to do it in even if he could, he apparently was going to do it in 48 hours. Yeah. Okay,
but Steve, I talk
according
to our people
Vivek
all the
Ramaswamy,
time, and they talk about Mike Pence. What could he do? What couldn't he do? I always put it back to them. Do you want Kamala Harris to be able to do this? And they say no. I said, well, then obviously he couldn't do it either. So that makes no sense to me whatsoever that Vice President Pence could be put in that position.
All right, so that's not true. All right, and this was asserted with great confidence. We played the clip. He's clearly thought it through. I mean, he had those talking points well rehearsed and down. It wasn't just like making it up. Like, it's very clear that this was his plan to try to explain why he wrote a book last year calling Pence heroic, which in and of itself should probably require drug testing, just as a general rule. But he wrote a book last year calling Pence heroic and trashing Trump. And now he behaves as a Trump surrogate and not a candidate half of the time. And so when they tried to corner him on some of this stuff and ask him about it on Meet the Press, his answer was, well, I think Mike Pence should have used his platform as president of the Senate to usher in real reforms, election reforms, like voter ID even for absentees, and we have a single day of voting. I mean, all stuff we'd agree with.
Sure.
But Mike Pence should have used his platform as president of the Senate to make those things happen, and that would have appeased Trump and his supporters. They would have certified the election, and January 6th would have never happened.
Did he talk at all about the CARES Act that Trump signed?
No.
That redid voting all over the country, especially in some of these key toss-up states, that allowed ballot harvesting,
no.
all the other things.
No, because last time you and I talked, and I told you there was a better chance I was going to be voted sexiest man alive. then Vivek Ramaswamy, did we not have this conversation?
You're right.
Okay. Then Vivek Ramaswamy would critique Donald Trump one time at the debate. And it turns out, I mean, I was right about that too. Yeah.
Well, my concern with Vivek even going there, and I happen to like Vivek. I like him a lot of things. He's very bright.
There are versions of Vivek that I like quite a bit.
He's very
There are
qualified.
other versions, that depending on who's uploading the program, I don't really care for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to me, this was basically being a Trump surrogate versus saying I'm running for president. That's my bigger issue with there is that if he's ever going to break away out of the pack from being number 2, 3, 4, whatever he is to say, I could see him being president. He cannot continue to be a Trump surrogate. The reason you're running for president is because you believe that Donald John Trump should no longer be president of the United States, or should not be president of the United States again.
So this other thing we talked about, so it was just announced about an hour ago, right before we went on the air. The federal judge in D.C. is going to make Trump go to trial as an insurrectionist before the gulags they call juries there, on March 4th, which is Super Tuesday.
Wow.
Going to do it right on Super Tuesday. All right. So while they're doing that, okay, much of conservative Twitter, including names you would know, spent a lot of time over the weekend. Look on Todd's face. Spent much of conservative Twitter, including names you would know, spent a lot of time over the weekend asserting that because Trump has been arrested now, he's going to win the black vote. Now, let's set aside. I mean, I don't know what's more racist. If you don't vote for me, you ain't black, Joe Biden, or because now he is considered a criminal by people, black people will vote for him. Siri, why can't Republicans ever make inroads to the black vote? And Siri's head just explodes. Okay, like, are we doing this again? Okay, but apparently, patriotic white boomers. If you've ever wanted to make a living in conservative media, I'm gonna tell you, get started right now. All right, this is foolproof. If you're a sentient being anywhere in the 9 realms, you at least know half the consonants and vowels that make up the English language. All right, half of them. That's it. Start creating videos targeted at patriotic white boomers tired of being told they're falsely accused of being racist for decades, that blacks are about to leave the, quote, Democrat plantation. And it really helps if you're black while doing that. You don't have to be. That's a bonus. That is a bonus. Okay?
Unbelievable.
That's a bonus. You don't have to be. If you're black while doing that, then it really pays. You might even get to run in a Democrat district where the Democrats are up by plus 40. Put out a video where you walk through the ghetto once, and then patriotic white boomers are going to just be like, take my money. Okay, and you'll parlay that into a radio show, and after you got like 9% of the vote. Not saying that ever actually happened, except the time that it did. Okay, that is, now Todd's laughing. That's a guarantee. That is a guaranteed way. If you're ever like, how do I get into conservative media? I mean, I'm not serious. You guys aren't. I mean, there clearly seems like a match here. I just told you. That's it. It helps to do this if you're black while doing it. You don't have to be though. All right, literally, you can be purple hair. I mean, if you are any version of the phylum Homo sapien, and you are willing to tell patriotic white boomers sick of falsely being called racist for 40 years, that at any moment, this is the election where blacks are going to, quote, leave the Democrat plantation. I mean, guys, even let's go Brandon, even the Biden economy cannot stop you from cashing in on that. All right, now they'll tax you to hell for it, okay? But there is a guaranteed. That's the closest thing to UBI that we have in America right now. A universal basic income, just by peddling the reverse racialism to white people that vote Republican. Bob, your thoughts?
I'm thinking about what I'm going to have for lunch here in a minute, because I think it's hard for me to even digest that this is real. I had not heard of this. And to me, you're right. It's just filled with racism, number one, of going, okay, this is how you get the blacks to vote for you.
Get arrested.
Yeah, get arrested. Go to jail. It's like, are you kidding me? I mean, and who comes up with this stuff?
Oh.
I mean,
some people making a hell of a lot more money in this business than I am. I'll tell you, which just goes to show you, I'm the idiot. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, but even to me, it almost.
That's what I should have done. Instead of wearing the Earl Campbell jersey, I should have worn the Raiders jersey. Yeah. All right, with a Raider hat, And I could have come on today, all right, and just gone full NWA wannabe. Blacks are leaving the Democrat plantation, yo. Okay, this is the time, all right? We've got a straight-up gangsta, all right, who falsely accused by the man, okay? I mean, this is just ridiculous. That's what I woke up to. The country's falling apart. You can't afford a used car, let alone a new home. And they're literally, we're selling merch and talking points from the 90s, okay? While they're literally running a freaking color revolution in the streets, man. That's what I woke up to on Saturday morning. I should have gone to Alaska.
I tell you, threats all over the country, and you're saying this is how you win the black vote. You get thrown into jail. My guess is, say the premise of that is even true, my guess is it almost have the reverse effect. Like, it's about time you got thrown into jail. But it just makes no sense on any level. And I think your point just right there is that you're facing all kinds of issues in this country and around the globe. And this is your answer at how Donald Trump is now going to win the primary and the election? It's hard for me to even conceive that.
I'm only holding the gun because I was going to pass it to you. What you just saw, folks, was the version of the video Steve asked to play 3 times. Steve just crashed through the trailer, turned around, grabbed the gun while a woman is lamenting, "I'm a peaceful protest." You just saw a reenactment of that. It was beautiful. I think you've earned this for the first time. Shooting it in the air, Yosemite Sam.
Don't give it to him.
That was priceless.
Right now, he's not
waving there
stable.
like Mitch McConnell at CPAC when he walked right by me once, waving an AR-15 that he thinks stands for assault rifle. Yeah. What are we doing here? I'm asking.
I have no idea.
What are we doing? Fox asks about UFOs and not about kids getting gender mutilated.
Yeah.
And we're talking about we're going to get the black vote because our guy got arrested. I mean, why don't we just get together and say what talking points could we come up with that would just confirm every commercial Democrats have ever run against us ever, and that would be pretty close to how do we get the blacks? Well, they clearly want criminals. I mean, that seems to be most of their content. So we've got a criminal now. We're good. I mean, just literally, this was trending everywhere. And Aaron, am I making this up at all?
No,
I'm not even. If anything, I'm underselling how much this was peddled Saturday morning.
I sent
this Monday ever.
Yeah, I sent this to you on Saturday morning. What did I say? What was my comment along with this?
Oh, you had an experience at a Chipotle in Lawrence, Kansas.
No. My comment was euthanize me. That was my comment.
I want to hear about Lawrence, Kansas, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, tell us what happened in Lawrence, Kansas, Aaron, if you don't mind. Yes.
Yeah. So I walked into a Chipotle in Lawrence, Kansas on Friday night to buy dinner for my family. And when I was standing in line, there were a couple of young women. One was black, one was white with purple hair, and they were talking about Trump's mugshot. And I gathered they were students at Kansas, at University of Kansas. And the girl with purple hair said, "Man, this is just crazy. I can't believe what they're doing to Donald Trump. I mean, I voted for Joe Biden and to keep abortion legal here in Kansas, but man, the Democrats have just gone too far." And then the black girl said, "Yeah, I just got off the phone with my uncle, my dad, and my grandpa, and they're all going to be voting for Trump." And the girl with purple hair said, "Yeah, I mean, I voted Democrat, you know, the first couple of times that I was able to vote in my life, but if the election were today, I'd be voting for Donald Trump a couple times." And then the black girl said, "Choo choo, all aboard the Trump train." And then the duo started singing "God Bless the USA" by Lee Greenwood.
Except you weren't actually in Lawrence, Kansas over the weekend.
The only part of that's true is the first sentence.
I was waiting for the punchline here, but Steve, I just absolutely don't get this. And go back to a premise of yours, though. When the elections are about personality, who wins?
Democrats do.
And when they're about policy?
The Republicans do.
Yeah. You're making it all about personality here. And if it's all about personality, I think we're going to get crushed. I think you need to have somebody who's good on policy, good on issues, somebody that's been tested, trusted, competent in delivering those results. And I think that's what America's looking for right now. So they're kind of sick of this silliness. And especially if that's trending on Twitter, we got real issues.
Last question. I've got 2 minutes. Okay. And I've wasted enough of your time, so you take all of it to answer if you want.
No, I'm kind of glad you took most of my time on this one.
Are our own people even serious?
That's a really good question. because I'd like to believe yes. I'd like to believe that the people that our base represents here, the family leader, they're very serious. They see this as the most crucial election of our lifetime. I believe that's also why they're in the camp, quite frankly, of we need to find an alternative to Trump. And that is not disrespecting Trump. They actually go right into of all the accomplishments that he's done and all the things that he did and how unfair weaponizing the system is against him. But they're basically concluding they don't believe he can win or he's the biggest threat to lose, and we need to win. And so to me, when I talk to people like that, I think they're talking with a very clear mind in regards to you have to win or this nonsense is only going to escalate times 10. If they win this election, you ain't seen nothing yet.
I'm not even going to ask you guys to answer that. I just...
Now, I'm talking for the family leaders base. I'm not talking about for everybody else, but the people I visit with, I believe they are exceptionally serious about this election.
Can I say this?
Go ahead, Aaron.
I think the people on Twitter are not serious.
I agree.
At all.
And as I've pointed out with data, did you guys see the data that the exact percentage of Republican primary voters that that use Twitter a lot is actually who watched the Tucker Trump interview? 7%.
Yeah.
Okay. It's just, I don't know. Somebody's building huge audiences off of non-serious content on Twitter. So there's clearly some base of people somewhere that are interested in not serious content. Fair? I mean, somebody is. I mean, people don't do stuff, well, except for maybe me, that they know going in will lose them money. People don't knowingly do that. I got 30 seconds.
The stuff that you just said, Steve, about what was trending on Twitter, and then the Lawrence, Kansas thing that Aaron just brought up, what it is, it's all too true. They will believe anything if it protects their man. And I don't care if it's about being incarcerated is going to get you the black vote, or you got a woman with purple hair saying, I'm jumping on the Trump train.
See, the thing is, though, that's not new. Like, I mean, in 2012, we nominated the one guy in America who could not attack Barack Obama on his biggest weakness.
Oh, without question.
Obamacare. I mean, and like Heritage Foundation under previous leadership, we're doing white papers that mandates are now good.
Yeah.
I mean, anything to protect the guy. That's not new. What Trump has done is exploited that more than anyone else has. But the idea of selling our souls to to perpetuate and promote whoever's the standard bearer of the GOP at the time is not a new thing.
Yeah, we've done that a lot. There's no doubt.
All right, we're coming back. We'll do Ask Me Anything. Bob probably wants to get the hell out of here.
I do. I want lunch.
Okay. All right. Hour 2 is next. All right, we're back with Hour 2 for reasons we're contractually obligated more than anything else. I just want you guys to know, I mean, I am taking precious time out of my future career plans of peddling the... Did you guys know that MLK was actually a Republican? Blacks are leaving the Democrat plantation. Donald Trump will win the black vote. By the way, Donald Trump did perform better with blacks than any Republican presidential candidate had in decades. You know what percentage he got? 12. He got 12. DeSantis actually did a little bit better. He got 13. He got 12. So I will finish the show, even though there is much more money to be made in lying to you about racial politics. Much more. Let us know what you think about what we think via the stevedeace.com inbox. Take advantage of it by emailing the show, steve@stevedeace.com. That's DEACE. Like us on Facebook, MeWe, and Gab. You can also find me at blacksforgop4evs.com. We'll be launching that site after the show today. Blacks for GOP for Ev. The number 4 EV. Number 4 EV. Blacks 4, number 4. GOP 4 EV. And we use the number 4 like 4 more years. You know what I'm talking about. You're feeling me. You're feeling me, dog. Blacks for GOP for Ev.com. Make sure you go there today. We will be launching our video explaining how Trump will not just win the black vote in 2024, but the Democrats will not receive a single black vote. In fact, not a single one. See, I mean, if we're going to play this, let's go. Let's go all the way. Not a single black voter for Democrats this year coming up. Not a single one. I'll debut the thought process for you. Don't worry. It'll be a short video. Blacks for GOP for Ev.com. Launching that after the show. Todd, your thoughts?
What if we could get him to do it? Like the Spite Store argument we had on Friday? Do you think there's something in them that they just like, not on principle, just like, can we push that button? Is it there to be pushed?
Apparently, you can push lots of buttons and get away with it. There's no blowback. Nobody cares. As long as you can turn it into merch. That's all we seem to care about. You can follow me as well on Twitter, at Steve Deace Show, Twitter, Getter, Instagram, and TikTok. You can find me on Truth Social as well, at Real Steve Deace there, at Real Steve Deace there. But I'm thinking about changing my name on on Truth Social to a dude pretending to be a dude, pretending to be another dude. With like the Robert Downey Jr. blackface from Tropic Thunder. Dude, when we dropped that Tropic Thunder a few weeks ago, how much has that proven to just be correct?
Yes.
Yep.
We are now even Robert Downey Jr. ourselves right now. Yeah, we're winning the black vote. Because our guy's a criminal. So I falsely accused.
See, we don't have any better plans, so let's lean into this one. What do you say?
I'm here for it.
There's a part of me that wonders if there's actually, we're missing it, that there's brilliance here.
I don't wonder that at all.
See, okay, I had that same instinct as well.
As if to say, like, it is a tacit admission. This is over. We're done. We're just totally done. Embrace the nihilism. We're like the people that were fossilized in Pompeii when they realized they couldn't get out. They were like fossilized mid-orgy. Just figured we got, you know what, man? We got these massive nerves that Zeus gave us, and we had one last chance to use them. Might as well go for it on the way out.
When you say we're done, this election, this nation, existence,
no, like the nation, like I wonder if this is actually just people recognizing, dude, this thing is toast. It's, we're so done
That's
here.
That's what I'm saying. So
just cash in.
Cash in for this.
Stop being serious and just cash in, homie. Make that money.
Point of personal privilege.
Yes.
Does the Blacks for GOP for EVs.org platform include a ban on flag burnings?
Yes. A ban on flag burnings for sure. Yes. And what else? Well, actually, apparently we can't do the death penalty. Because that's what we heard, and that we had to actually empty the prisons to get 12% of the black vote. We couldn't. And the other guy actually didn't racially pander at all and like imprisoned more people and sent out the National Guard to stop rioters. And he actually got a higher percentage of the black vote than the guy who didn't do any of those things. That's fascinating to me. But again, those are facts, and those don't matter now. It's just the show. That's all that matters. It's just the show. And so maybe we just need to maybe we're wrong. Maybe we're wrong. And everybody else who has surmised that this is the last days of Pompeii, the lava flowage and floweth forth and cannot be stopped. So you know what, man? As the great prophet Young MC once said, bust it. Just go for it, man. Why not? Just, that's all that's left. None of this is serious. Nothing's happening. Make that money. Make as much of that money as you possibly can now before we all go to a government-ordained digital currency you won't be able to spend. Thoughts? Maybe that's the actual strategy and we just misunderstand. That's a possibility.
I'm Han Solo in The Force Awakens right now. This is not how I thought this Monday was going to go.
No? Is that possible? Do you think that's possible?
Yeah.
That a lot of people have just figured out this thing's toast, it's over, there's no point to it, so just cash in while you can.
I think it's proportional to the same grifting class as always, but
I would prefer that over we're this dumb and shallow.
Oh no, we're this dumb and shallow.
No, I just see that now I'm going to shoot you. Okay.
Stop it.
I need us to be this cynical. I will prefer this level of cynical and nihilistic over this dumb and shallow.
No.
Give me what I want. Please. Give me something.
No.
Give me something here. That's all I'm asking for. I don't ask for much around here. I mean, after all, I'm a 50-year-old man wearing a 50-year-old NFL jersey. All I ask for is that you give me cynical and nihilistic over dumb and shallow. That's it. That's all I'm asking. And you can't hook a brother up that one time. I'm trying to think here. I'm trying to think of other tropes. Wait a minute. Like if Ron DeSantis said hook a brother up, yeah. How much more of the black vote would he get, guys? Thoughts? Anyway, go ahead, Aaron. I'm trying to think of other wearing tropes, a Raiders jersey. Go ahead. Yeah. Tropes like a ban on flag burnings that GOP types always talk about when they're, death penalties. Another one. Death penalties. Yeah. Used to be vote GOP for better judges, and lo and behold, we overturned Roe v. Wade. Who is responsible or in part responsible for that? Trump is. Another one. Move the embassy to Jerusalem. Yeah. Who did that? So we could be talking about, some of the tropes that, were actually blown up by the guy who actually, followed through on a couple of them. But no, we're blacksforgopforevs.org. That's what we're doing. Checks in the mail, yo. Gots to get paid, G. That's what we're doing. Gots to get those clicks. But it's not worse than we normally do either. So. I agree. I wonder if it's actually all a plan and we're wrong. There's more thought going into this than we think. No? No. Every once in a while, a monkey sits down at a typewriter and actually puts a word together. Out of just luck? Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. What is that word, Todd? Don't answer that. Never mind. Does it end uck in some way, shape, or form? If you listen to the podcast, maybe not today. Today's maybe not the day to ask you this, but another day when the show's even worse than it is right now. Leave us a 5-star review if you like the program. And thank you to all of you that have done that. You can subscribe or follow. And you do that to avoid the censorship. And that way, no matter what ends up happening to us, you get this downloaded into your feed every single day. So we appreciate all of you that have done those things for us already. Feedback Friday is brought to you by our friends over at My Patriot Supply. As you know, and let's face it, the conversation we've had today has been an indication that our world could dramatically change any minute. Any minute. For example, any minute now, Republicans could win the black vote. Any minute now could happen. Or you can understand that because things don't like that happen in the real world, you better be prepared for more Let's Go Brandoning. All right? Get the biggest discount offered ever, 25% off each kit. 25% off each kit, the biggest discount offered ever by My Patriot Supply. It's their 3-month emergency food supply. That's breakfast, lunch, dinner, even drinks and snacks. The full complement of the 2,000 plus calories that you need per day to make sure you're ready when it goes down. Because, folks, it's going down as we speak. Make sure you're prepared. Free shipping as well. Food stays good for up to 25 years with proper storage. And with 16 different types of meals and sides, you can mix and match so that it never gets old. Never gets old. You know, unlike our talking points. Preparewithdace.com is where you want to go. That's preparewithdace.com. Again, that's preparewithdace.com. 25% off each kit. I think your whole career has led you to this very show. I think this is just a complete give up. Just a give up. I mean, I was just, I couldn't believe when I woke up, we're doing this whole, like, at least can we wait till next year when, like, the general's going on? We're already starting the Trump, or the trope of we're winning the black vote. I mean, we're not serious. So why should I be serious? We're not serious. Maybe we're the morons. Maybe what the people want is unserious talk. I look forward to our forthcoming I'm Not Serious segment. Where's that going to go? Maybe right now, depending on these questions. Let's get to them. Time to ask me anything. Our followers over on Me, we got to ask the questions this week. Todd has determined which of those questions are up for consideration. Aaron, you have those questions. I have not seen them yet until now. We'll begin with this from Michael Ewers. The 2024 Senate map is very favorable for the GOP, West Virginia, Montana, Ohio.
Why isn't there more focus on this? The Senate confirms judges. Voting for POTUS for better judges seems moot without the upper chamber. Then 2024 Senate map is very favorable for the GOP, and I think that's just a repeat.
Do you see what I'm talking about? Like on analytical Steve, let's dive into the polls days. You might get one thing. I had no idea what Steve was coming in this Monday. Right now you get this Steve to answer this question, and I'm popping some corn.
Who was that?
How important is the Senate, Steve?
Michael Ewers.
So,
don't let me down now. Come on, we've set a bar. Clear it.
I can't tell you who it was. But a few months ago, I had somebody who was, I'll say, instrumental in helping Trump get elected. Tell me, this is what he told me a few months ago. After the first indictment in March. This is what he told me. He said, Trump cannot be beaten for the nomination. He cannot possibly win a national election. And I'm telling all the donors I know to invest everything you can in trying to win the Senate. That's our only hope. To which I thought, if our only hope is winning the Senate,
that's my boy!
Then, not even trolling you now, blacksforgop4ev.com goes live right after the show. In fact, today I'm wearing a prominent black athlete's jersey to show I'm down with the struggle, my solidarity. Blacks, indeed. If that right there. I mean, if we're down to that, then we are the morons for not doing blacks for GOP for Ev and just cashing in on that as much as we possibly can while we still can. I mean, it's Matthew, right? That's who asked the question, correct?
Michael, I'm
sorry. I knew it started with an M. Michael, your political analysis is correct. It's just very unfortunate. Yeah, I mean, that's why I'm starting to think maybe we're wrong about this. Maybe we should just give up like everybody else. Maybe we should have just done what most other people are doing and just forgetting about all of Ron DeSantis' accomplishments, realizing that nobody cares. Nobody wants accomplishments. We want to show, we want laugh-in while we culturally do a die-in. That's what we want. And just fully embrace that. Maybe we're the ones that are wrong. I'm dead serious. Maybe we're the ones that are wrong here.
This reminds me of a great line from one of the Shrek movies, which my wife loves, where Shrek just unloads on Donkey, and Donkey says, "Only a true friend would be that truly honest."
What other show?
I freaking love that movie, by the way.
What other show in America?
I do. Yes.
Would pivot from, hey, should we sell out the Shrek to whatever the heck else we're talking about today?
By the way, one of my all-time favorite bands, they did an album, The Who Sells Out. That was the name of the album. The Who Sells Out. They called it that. So.
These are things I'm thinking right now.
Tomato. Pondering. I mean, what am I supposed to... They launched an insurrection trial against the guy that the polls say is going to be our standard bearer on the day of Super Tuesday, and we're selling T-shirts. What else? How else am I supposed to take this?
It's going to be a beautiful sellout. We've never seen a sellout like this before.
Indeed. I mean, you've got people with massive platforms tweeting out in all caps, "Civil War!" And they've never been to a school board meeting in their lives. How am I... and they make millions of dollars. I don't. How else am I supposed to take this? Maybe I've been the one that's been doing this wrong the entire time. I'm the fool. Thoughts?
This is the greatest Monday ever.
Do you want the Trump mugshot on your koozie or on your fender?
How about my jock strap?
Okay.
We should do that, actually. In fact, today live at blacksforgop4ev.com, our merch line will begin with Trump mugshot jock straps. And you can have Trump in your junk.
Never surrender. Here's a photo of me literally right after I surrendered to Fulton County authorities.
Surrendering to a local...
Never surrender.
A local DA who has no jurisdiction over him whatsoever. Is Trump a Georgia resident?
That's a tour.
Yeah.
Just go around the country surrendering to everybody who has no jurisdiction. Hi, I'm here. I'm here to surrender.
Well, we went through this. I'm on Twitter lighting Ron DeSantis up like a freaking Christmas tree for not providing extradition, protection for Trump. He finally comes out and does on Monday. The next morning, Trump goes halfway across the country to turn himself into a local DA.
No, I'm serious. You should be running his campaign.
Just go around the country surrendering.
Across America surrendering. I'm here to surrender.
I remember being 10 feet from Trump. I know I was going to get offered a job that day when he said, I like POWs that don't get captured. Then he goes out there and just captures himself. Tweets never surrender as he's surrendering. Says, lock her up. They're going to lock him up. We're the idiots. We are the idiots. Okay. Because if going back to Matthew's note, Michael, I'm sorry.
Who's now in the corner, curled up in a ball, sucking his thumb.
I will never submit a question again.
Calling his therapist.
His wife comes in and finds him. Matthew, what did you do? Sorry, Michael.
I'm sorry, Michael. I can't get my composure.
I've never been more professionally satisfied in my whole life than I am in this moment.
Stop and think about it, though. To be serious for just a second.
No.
If the fallback is we have to win the Senate, guys, then we must. Yeah, that's our fallback. That's the fallback. If the fallback is we need a John Cornyn, John Thune, Mitch McConnell Senate to save America.
Rest in peace, Michael Ewers.
Indeed. Blacks for Ev. BlacksForGOP4ev.com. Launching this afternoon. Check out our product line. Trump mugshot jock straps. And you could have Trump on your junk. All right? Everybody else wants to sell cups, t-shirts. Let's truly bring it home. Let's round third and head for home. Trump on your junk. Trump jock straps. And for the ladies, no, never mind. Gosh. I can understand why people have just given up and cashed in. Because what is the point of telling people to give us a Republican Senate? Do you guys know what the point of that exercise is? And so that's why I go back to what I said a few minutes ago. Are there just a lot of smarter people in us that figured out how completely and irrevocably screwed we are? So we're like the people that couldn't get out of Pompeii. Eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we die. Let it rip. Cash this thing in as much as I possibly can, knowing reality is over around here. I'm serious. Let's go to the next question.
All right, this is from Johnny Fortner. Steve, if Fauci were to come out in the near future and say he'd seen a movie called Nefarious, had his eyes open to the sin in his life and repented of his sin, giving his life to Christ, would you still want to kick the chair out from under him? If this were to happen, should we just start referring to you as Jonah?
Yes. In fact, I would. And furthermore, if that actually had happened, I wouldn't have to worry about kicking the chair out from Fauci. Because if he had truly had a conversion, then part of his repentance would be admitting what he had done wrong, admitting how many people he hurt, admitting how many people he misled. Like, for example, there's two men that flank Jesus at the cross. We know the story, right? The one guy who's had a truly repentant moment, Jesus says of him, "Today you will be with me in paradise," right? Mm-hmm. Does Jesus then say also to him, "And that's why I demand these Roman authorities release this individual from this terrible form of execution"? Is that in the scriptures?
It is not.
No. At any point, does Christ offer him absolution for the crimes he has committed?
Not temporary.
No. Does he demand that he not be held accountable for the crimes he has committed? No. In fact, what does he say? The guy that has repentance, what does he say to the other thief who has none? What does he say? We deserve what we are getting. We deserve what we are getting. We deserve what we are getting. So if Fauci had a true conversion, the likes of which, is that Johnny? I want to make sure I get the names right now. Okay. If Fauci had a true conversion like what Johnny is asserting, part of that is a recognition. I am a wretch. I am a sinner. I did wrong. I misled people. I deserve, just like the thief at the cross, I deserve what I am getting. The repentant thief at the cross. I deserve. I violated the law. And that's why I'm up here. So no, we don't let people go free. In fact, if that conversion was sincere, what happens is, this is all that changes. You give Mr. Fauci a hug and say, "Well done, good and faithful servant." And then you kick the chair out from underneath him.
This is a nice companion piece with the previous question. We weren't wrong, but we do deserve this. Mm-hmm.
Joe Robinette Blind says, can the legislature of the USA pass a law that would strip the executive or judiciary of any power vested in them by the Constitution for the United States of America? Why do people continue to claim that the legislature made it impossible for the chief executive to terminate any executive employee? I know that the current form of governing is violating at least 23 of the 27 complaints enumerated in the Declaration of Independence.
Because there's a lot more money to be made in telling people that Trump could not have fired Fauci if he wanted to than in telling people that he could have. That's why.
Yep.
That's the answer to your question.
Clinton Cooper, how close does DeSantis have to be in order to draw Trump out into a debate?
I'm really starting to believe Trump's attorneys will not let him debate. And I know I said something about this last week, but I was just thinking about it over the weekend. Has Trump done any live exchange of content since he was indicted for January 6th? And I went back and looked and could not find one. Now, maybe I've missed something. But what I mean by live, where he was in front of a live audience and anything could come up, unorchestrated, unedited. Well, because I mentioned this to a buddy of mine, and he was like, well, the dude has still said some pretty provocative things on Truth Social.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
But there's still an edit. There's still, those things can get deleted, or that's not, and there's a limit of characters that can be said in there. So that's a good point, but it's not the same as a live exchange of thoughts where you lose total control of the process. Like, calling Jack Smith a terrible person isn't incriminating yourself. Getting in, like, let's go to one question. If Trump were on the stage last Wednesday and Brett Baer asks, did Mike Pence do the right thing? How does Trump answer that question without incriminating himself? If he says no, he's incriminated himself. If he says yes, he's incriminating himself. There's no way to answer that question. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now, on Truth Social, I can just call Mike Pence a coward, and God bless him for it, because that's all true. I can call Mike Pence a name and all kinds of names, but I'm not materially speaking to the case. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. If he's on that debate stage and he gets asked, did Mike Pence act courageously or not? Did he do the right thing? There's no way Trump can answer that without incriminating himself. both in Washington, D.C. or in Fulton County, Georgia, no matter what he answers. And I think that's what they're trying to avoid. I mean, he has no formal campaign events on his website. I think they're telling him he can't, and I think they're using the polls as the excuse, when in reality, it's because his attorneys don't want him doing them. Don't want him involved in a live exchange of content and topics where he's not in control of the dialogue. I'm pretty confident almost everything he's done since the January 6th indictment was a recorded interview.
And even on the Truth Social front, let's go back to just making things completely dumb. When's the last time you read a tweet from his that wasn't just sophomoric? Yet he's probably composing these tweets, handing them off to a lawyer, and a lawyer reading the nonsense, green lights it and says, "This is solid stuff," because it's, as long as it's not jumping into any problematic legal swampiness, you just be as sophomoric and juvenile as possible. That's the best case scenario.
Like Trump can say whatever he wants about the judge and the U.S. attorney in D.C. because he's going to get screwed there no matter what. You know what I'm saying? They're not like, well, we're going to hate you more that you called me insane. No, I mean, that just there's no legal jeopardy by just losing his poop on individuals that have already made it very clear they're out to destroy him. You know what I'm saying? Okay. It's not like the bully's like, well, I was only gonna smack you around a little bit, but then you said my mom was fat, and so I'm gonna punch you now. I mean, we're past that, okay? We're talking about material issues with these cases.
I think you're right.
If he answers that question at the debate last Wednesday, there's no way to answer it without incriminating himself. Either way. And then I really am starting to think that's why he's not doing debates, is to avoid legal jeopardy. I think that's why they're not doing rallies and campaign events. Same reason. He came to Iowa. What did he do? Read from prepared texts.
Which just reinforces what you've been saying all along, that he knows as well as anybody he's going to get indicted, put in prison, house arrest, etc.
But I believe his people think they can't message this to the voters,
right? Because
the voters would be like, "Oh, that's terrible," but you mean you really can't be on a ballot? You really can't win,
right?
Then we have to move on,
right?
And so then he gets the worst of both worlds, and so we're essentially being told to gamble our entire children's futures on his ability to avoid 41 indictments before we even get to winning the actual election, which is going to be hard on its own. More I'm thinking about it, the more blacksforgopforev.com is feeling like a rock solid idea, guys. There's money, gold in them hills. All right, back here on the Steve Deace Show, powered by our friends over at Sweatblock. Man, I got up this morning, took out some trash, and you could just feel that fall chill. Couldn't you feel it this morning? It felt so good.
It was weird walking around this weekend and not having to,
I know,
just take an ice bath.
I know. You see the forecast for next weekend?
Isn't it supposed to be hot again?
Yeah, brutal again.
Yep.
So it's a Sweatblock weekend again next weekend, folks. All right, so make sure you're prepared with our friends at Sweatblock. Now, maybe your issue isn't just, the heat of summertime, but the adrenaline gets really going. First date, job interview, public speaking, any pressure-packed situation you have a hard time not pitting out. They can help you with their OG product, the antiperspirant wipes. Those work wonderfully. That's really the product line that launched this business and turned it into the success it is today. But they've got other products as well. Their deodorant stick, man, is the truth. And I love the deodorant lotions, especially when you're traveling in the heat and things can get a little swampy down there. And that's where you want to go to sweatblock.com. Use the promo code DACE, get 10% off. Sweatblock, or 20% off. I'm sorry, I've undersold it. 20% off. Sweatblock.com, promo code DACE at sweatblock.com. Promo code DACE at sweatblock.com for 20% off. Use the promo code DACE. All right. Let's go back to more Ask Me Anything. Although,
it's went well so far.
I'm not sure anybody wants us to, but continue on, we shall.
Rex Elliott says, will there ever be a time when the right organizes its natural allies, example churches, certain media, small business leaders, and youth groups, into a real threat To the left.
This is one of those other questions. Why are you looking at me that? Do we have good questions, Todd? Let's find out.
During the break, I responded to a guy who tweeted at me that I'm all hat, no cattle. You are too, by the way, Todd.
Nice.
Am I left out?
Yeah, you were left out. They preach to me living in a blue state on what I need to do in order to be a real man. But they do so from the security and comfort of their red state. I do like their political analysis, though, which is why I continue to listen.
This guy's been whining. What's his name?
Peter Van Fleet.
Oh, he's been whining all week about this.
Has he?
Yeah. Speaking of a guy who's curled up in the fetal position in a corner.
So
that's you, Peter.
When I took over in 2006, when I moved from sports talk radio to news talk radio, Democrats had more power in Iowa, in state government, than they had had since before the Civil War. Unprecedented.
The Grunstall Empire.
There were almost 60 out of 100 seats in the House that went to Democrats. They had the governor's mansion. They had, I think there were 14 Republican senators. Maybe it was 16, very low number out of 50 seats there. That's the environment that I came into. A small group of us, including two individuals who were just talking to each other about an hour ago on this show, Bob Vander Plaats and myself and a few others, worked together, coordinated, did the very thing that you talked about here. Can you put his question back up there just so people can see, Aaron? We did this exact thing. I was certain media in a statewide platform. Bob organizationally was able to get churches. We had enough people, enough business leaders with souls that would come forward and write checks. When I left WHO 5 years later, Republicans had 60 out of 100 House seats. There was a tie in the state Senate. And we had done something that still no state in the union has ever done, which is remove 3 state Supreme Court justices by referendum on a retention vote. That's never happened in American history. To this day, we're still the only place that's ever done it. And what's happened since I left and went national is the place has become even more red, because that group of people that are still here, like Bob and others, kept working the state and turned it more red. Republicans had won Iowa in a presidential election once since the Reagan landslide of '84. Once. We sent Tom Harkin to the Senate for 4 decades. Over 30 years. I'm sorry, you don't know what you're talking about. This wasn't a red state. You just don't know what you're talking about. How did I get on Salem Radio? One of the only 3 national radio networks in America that matters. Why did they create a time slot to put me on the air? Why was the Blaze interested when it merged with CRTV? Why was it interested in holding on to me and carrying me over? How many people from Iowa get to platforms like this? Not many. So why me? I'm just that adorable. I'm just that good looking. Well, if that's your answer, I'm going to question your proclivities in other areas. No. Because I've done this stuff other people have just talked about. I've done it. I've got the scars and the body count to prove it. The enemies to prove it. I've done it. I've been a part of efforts to do these things. That's how I got on everybody's radar. That's how people knew who I was. That's why I'm here. I did this stuff. It's not theoretical to me. I've helped put the first black man ever on the Des Moines school board. Never happened before. So you're out there talking about blacks for Trump for Ev. I actually put the first black man ever on the school board in Des Moines. Never happened. I did that with my show. The 2 highest turnouts a Republicans ever had in the Iowa caucuses. I supported both those candidates when no one else did. They were at 2%. Mike Huckabee set the record in 2008. Ted Cruz broke it in 2016. You don't know what you're talking about. There is no other reason for companies like the Blaze to build however, 5 or 6 figures, whatever the studio cost, in Des Moines, Iowa. Why? Because I've done this stuff. I've done it. I haven't just talked about it. I've done it. You don't know what you're talking about. And that's why you live in a blue state. Because you don't know what you're talking about. Because you'd rather bitch tweet on Twitter than do something. Todd, how many school board meetings you been to in the last 3 years? What'd you think?
No. More than everybody else.
Yeah. That's the answer. You just don't know what you're talking about. I've done this stuff. I've seen how it works. I've seen how it doesn't. I've seen what works. I've seen what doesn't. I've done the stuff you're talking about. In 2016, 3 different presidential campaigns hired to run their caucus campaigns the people I advised them to hire. Donald Trump hired Chuck Laudner. Ben Carson hired Ryan Rhodes. Ted Cruz hired Brian English. They didn't know who any of those people were. I told them who they were. I told them who they should hire. And all 3 of them hired whom I told them to hire. You don't know what you're talking about. My biggest flaw is I'm actually one of the few taking all of this very seriously, to the point of doing things when I'm not on the air to do things. And that's apparently my fatal flaw, that we don't want that. We just want to poop post on Twitter. That's what we want to do. We want to buy merch. We want to tell each other lies about minority voters. We want to do that. We'd rather do that. I mean, what do I know? What do I know? How many black churches have you been to? Because I've actually preached in several of them. And I put the first black man on the Des Moines school board, only to then watch them turn around and turn him into basically a white racist Uncle Tom. Even though he'd never been a Republican in his life. What do I know? Nothing. Other than most of the stuff you see about right-wing politics and organization, I've actually done or seen it done. That's why I'm here. Why else would all these networks pluck a kid from Iowa? This is why. Because I've done it. And you want to know what it'll take? A lot of what's in that question that was just asked. You'll need to get, like committees of correspondence during the Revolutionary War, you'll need to get people of various sectors of influence, and they'll have to work together. Here's your problem. Not a lot of money and fame and acclaim in working together. But like the old plaque on Ronald Reagan's desk, it's a miracle what you can get done when you don't care who gets the credit for it. Next question.
Joseph Arlano, I should say, says, it certainly looks like climate change is the next COVID. Any advice on getting ahead of this fight?
How about Operation Warp Climate? Next question.
We go to Troy Skinner following Pucker Up Carlson's infomercial with the Donald, who is now leading the conservative voice, or who is the leading conservative voice in big media.
Do you really want me to answer this?
Are you enjoying the question so far, Steve?
Are you enjoying my answers?
Very much so.
Are these questions or triggers, Todd? Are you like just going through the... That'll trigger him.
I didn't know until an hour ago.
That'll trigger him. Oh, that one will definitely trigger him. Definitely. You know what? I was going to come up with a snarky answer. We'll get into more of this tomorrow. That slurp fest, whatever that was last week, still does not deter from the fact that Tucker Carlson overall has been the most important voice we have produced in the last few years. Now, it's not a good omen for where the trend line is going in the future. I'll say that. But I'm not going to just instantly erase the level of resume and accomplishment of importance and stuff that substantively matters that Tucker led on or amplified. I'm not going to let how disappointing that moment was overshadow all of that. But I am worried, and we'll talk more about this tomorrow. I am worried about what it means for the future. For him, and therefore for us. Because now, if Tucker Carlson's given up on being serious, then... I mean, he was like the one guy out there proving you could be a millionaire doing this seriously, right? Right?
Yeah.
He had the most watched show we've ever produced on linear TV, right? He was the one guy out there showing we could take this all very seriously, of course, while mocking our opponents mercilessly, which, I'm all for. I mean, taking the issues seriously, even if at times the content itself was funny. But the issues that we could do this substantively and take them seriously and make huge bank doing so, if he's going to abandon that now, then I guess the only thing left to do is right after the show, blacksfortrumpforev.com and get your Trump jockstrap.
Tom Heavener says there's some very smart Trump loyalists like Sebastian Gorka. How can they not understand that the only way Donald Trump won in 2016 was because he was running against the most despised candidate amongst men and women in Hillary Clinton in American politics at the time? And they got caught off guard. Trump now has that distinction by women for certain and can't possibly win a general, yet they continued down this path. Why?
There's no money to be made in the analysis that you just gave. All career advancement is available for the other analysis. That's going to be the answer without even being snarky. That will be the answer to many of these types of questions. You wouldn't know who a Seb Gorka, what a Seb Gorka was if he said things like what you put in your note. You know what he is and who he is because, he doesn't say things like that. He's a promoter of Trump. That's why you know who he is. If you did level-headed analysis that even questioned the kinds of things you brought up, you wouldn't know who he is. That's why. Yes, Aaron.
All right, we have two more. I want to make sure we get to both of them. Jared Martin says, what are some interesting things that make each of you think that you and your wife were meant to be? My wife and I grew up on opposite ends of the same road, less than 5 miles apart, and never knew it.
Amy and I just happened to be in an AOL chat room at the exact same time. Both from, even though I lived in Iowa at the time, both from the same part of the country, West Michigan. And then finding out that her family has an abortion story very similar to my own. That would be how I would answer that.
Todd, quickly.
The way Catholicism from my end and chiropractic from hers had this strange marriage of understanding where I could understand her and she could understand me on issues that might not keep others from getting married. It's how we did the math early on. It was really interesting.
Thursday, when Anna asked the question about... what was it? Rejecting, what's the best advice you ever rejected? Mm-hmm. Bella texted me after I gave my answer and said that was exactly the same thing that I was thinking about. We have a lot of those moments. Finally, Brian Bowser says, what do you think the feasibility is of the new victory through indictment strategy of the Trump campaign via the black vote?
See?
Did you plan this out last on purpose?
It's poetry.
Just to shank me one more time on the way out?
No, this is cosmic poetry, what's going on here. And in the spirit of the show, I'd like it reflected in my future bonus.
I forgot
That's my grift.
I forgot that was the last one until like 2 minutes ago.
0. To quote the great film Animal House, 0.0. 0.0.
That was an opera we did today. I mean,
like a La Cage aux Folles? That kind of an opera?
I don't know what that is, but is it
Actually,
good?
I think that's a musical, isn't it?
Who's to say?
You know, it identifies as an opera while being a musical. Yes. I identify it as an opera. Yes.
Good has been done here today.
Anyway, blacksfortrumpforev.com.
Pull one out.
Trump on your junk. Get your Trump jockstrap. Selling merch here while the country goes under. That's all. That's our answer. That's all we got. We got nothing else. And I'll be tweeting out in all caps Civil War all day long at Steve Deace Show.